Ready?
Hello, and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, a video game music podcast. This is episode 29-5, and we are your hosts. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Pernell.
Every week, we bring to you video game music. From all consoles and all generations, we pick a topic, we pick some tracks, and we discuss it.
All multiverse locales.
Yeah.
Don't matter.
It doesn't matter. The alternate Pernell, every version of Pernell is perfect.
What if Yuzo Koshiro composed music in a way that was similar to Motoi Sakuraba? There's another $1 for you, Mike Myers.
What if Tim Fallon composed for Konami?
Hey,
What if
indeed?
What if?
That would be. I wish I was the thing that existed. Like there was like this whole area of the gamerverse or music cover gamerverse where people were doing like covers based off of what someone would sound like in X condition. That would be pretty fun to come across, honestly. So if anybody out there is listening is like, oh yeah, there is a thing where someone did a remix of a track based off of a guy sounding like another guy, let me know. Let Rob know.
Let me know, because if something's going to sound like Tim Fallon, I want to hear it. If something's going to sound like Tim Fallon from 1988, I want to hear it.
If something's going to sound like Tim Fallon being his brother Jeff Fallon, I just made that up, by the way. But I want to hear
his brother, his name is Jeff Fallon.
Nailed it. I want to hear it.
How do you spell Jeff?
G-O-F-F.
There you go.
I only knew that because you asked me to spell it. There's only two ways to spell Jeff.
And so it had to be with the G, right?
Yes.
All right.
Only other way is the one that makes no sense.
Oh, man. So if you are a fan of the show, and you would like to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/rhythmandpixels, and there you get access to weekly prequel episodes, and you also get access to a live streamed Patreon exclusive episode, which is today.
And I am not going to play Spelunky 2 on this one because I have not been sleeping.
Oh, that would be bad. Your brain would go in two different directions.
Yeah, normally I can do 4 things at once, but today I'm limited to like 2 or 3.
You would split into the multiverse, is what would happen.
I would.
Yeah, if anyone knows how to do that, that's how you do it.
Don't sleep.
Try to multitask.
And play Switch.
But yeah, so what happens is we record an episode for a live Patreon audience, but the episode gets edited and into our normal release schedule anyway. It's just a lot of fun. So we have a chat full of listeners that can make jokes with us, and we make jokes with them. We have visual gags that can occur during the show that
they'll watch us fumble.
You may want. Yeah, you can see us fumble over lines. lines.
There you go. Where you go? You screwed everything. Edit.
That's it. Edit.
Cut.
All right, let me go back.
Anyway,
our listener Cameron Worma says a Tim Fallon Castlevania soundtrack.
And the odd part is I read that and immediately was like, a Tim Fallon Christmas. That would be interesting.
A Tim Fallon Christmas.
Hey, we'd all be happy. We'd be bopping at least.
Maybe we can make a very special Christmas episode for Ed called the Tim Fallon Christmas.
But no, I was thinking just like Tim Fallon doing covers and remixes of all the famous Christmas songs.
Ooh, with some heavy arpeggiation for now.
Exactly. Have yourself a Merry Little Christmas done by Tim Fallon. That'd be great.
Have your... Sorry. I suddenly thought I could do the Silver Surfer music with my mouth, which is a terrible idea.
But the important part is you try. I like these. See, I like all these suggestions people were throwing up there.
This is great. Yeah. Motoi Sakuraba composed Shin Megami Tensei music. Motoi Sakuraba, Pernell.
I would be surprised if he actually has, to be perfectly honest with you. There's probably a track or two out there in limbo. Yeah, I was a fan of the franchise, so I just did this thing.
Have you been playing anything new recently? That of note.
Actually, I did start Psychonauts 2 last night. I don't want to say some of the other ones, though I may as well, because I'll just bring them up later anyway, because they're going to end up on the...
You gotta break the NDA for now.
Well, no, there's no NDA. It's just, I'm thinking there's going to be 2 episodes that come up later on in the year. There's going to be the games that were beaten during the Summer Games Challenge. Mm-hmm. But then there's also going to be the games started during the Summer Games Challenge, because I can tell you right now, I started a lot of games this summer. but I've beaten very few. But I believe I will have beat by the time summer ends, which is September 22nd. Yes, I'm going to the exact date. I'm hoping actually I'll have beaten enough games to actually have all the picks counted for, so that would be interesting.
Oh, that's good.
So
that would be that's a feat in and of itself.
But games I've played that were not intended to be on the Summer Games Challenge: Psychonauts 2, Orbabot, what the gibber? Some game called Rims Racing, which annoyed me. Like the request came through. It was like, you want to review this game called Rims Racing? And I was like, well, I'm really tired of bike racing sim games. They're boring to me. I only want it if it's got an arcade mode.
You mean like Trials?
No, Trials is fun, despite being frustrating. I mean like Sims, where it's like you got to make a schedule, you got to tune your bike, and you gotta lean just far enough where you'll tip over, and if you drive slightly off the track, you get a time penalty.
How many games are like that?
Surprisingly, quite a few. I've reviewed a number of them, and I don't like them.
Perfect to me.
No.
A perfect world of
you can't even
bicycle
get through
simulation.
Persona. You're not going to play a game where you got to fine-tune a bike? Come on.
You are so right.
I know I'm right. The thing about like the game came back, there's like, they sent the code, but they didn't clarify. That means it's definitely a sim. I'm going to trash this game. And then the game came through. I played a bit of it. I was like, it's disingenuous to trash it because it's not a bad game, but I am going to say that I didn't like it personally.
That's fine.
But I can then objectively describe it and talk about it, and that's what I did.
Giving a game to the wrong person. So I was hanging out with my cousin this weekend, and she gave me, she was like, hey, you got to check out Octopath Traveler.
Oh, that game is great.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was so cool. And then she gave me Owl.
You got an owl?
Owlscape, Owl.
Who?
Owl.
Who?
Ow.
Who?
Garsh.
Okay,
Garsh.
Mickey. Goofy
I was like trying to think of a not curse word, and I ended up with Garsh. What happened there? Oh gosh, Owlboy. Also an amazing game, but I didn't want to pick it up because I was going to want to play it. That game has been on my wish list forever, but like there's been so many other things in the way that I wanted to do. So I love hearing about what you're playing because I don't play anything.
And that's why I think when we do the games completed challenge, that's going to be a funny episode for what picks you bring to the table.
It has been a busy time, a busy family time for me, so I haven't had a lot of opportunity to get back into Persona. I will finish it. I have a feeling I'm going to finish it like in an evening.
In multiple evenings.
Maybe multiple evenings. Maybe an evening into the daytime. Like that's ever going to happen. Anyway, so we are continuing our last topic. I love doing this now, where we have our Patreon episode where we ask for suggestions. So again, you don't have to be a Patreon member. If you're just a listener and you would like to suggest music for an episode or for this special kind of call-in episode, just send us an email at rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com. And we'll just take them. But I love doing these where they're continuations of previous episodes.
Which, by the way, just hearing it right now, the next topic is going to be games you played this summer because that's just how it's going to line up.
Oh, no.
Oh, it is. It is. It will be the Patreon topic.
Are we done? The next Patreon episode.
Next Patreon episode.
Yes, the games you played. You, the listener.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I got to really quick play some games.
You got 2 minutes. Get on it.
In my mind, all I'm doing is fantasizing about playing classic RPGs. After these past 2 episodes and hanging out with my cousins, I'm like, man, the 16-bit RPG era, I missed out on a bunch.
So you know what you're going to do? Play Final Fantasy X.
I'm not. I'm done. Blitzball ruined it.
Are you off the horse? Have you given up the white elephant?
Not 10-2.
Oh, Christ.
Because that's still sitting on my hard drive for now.
Jesus, stop.
When you walk away, you don't hear me
But that's Kingdom Hearts. Oh, please. You can play that one.
Well, there's still some...
But don't go.
Yeah, I played that enough, too.
I love Kingdom Hearts.
That's all I just wanted to sing that song. So we are continuing our previous episode of 16-bit RPGs. Yes, it sounds like I just edited this part of the show, but really I'm just changing gears. That's
because we've got hours.
The reality is terrible. Reality is terrible. So we're going to do 16-bit RPGs from our listeners, and they came in with force.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Though, I gotta say, it's not really a spoiler because you don't know what we picked. But I think it's hilarious that for all the picks that came through, the two most popular games by far, surprisingly, were Final Fantasy VI and I think Ys 4.
Ys 4. Why are you surprised about Final Fantasy VI? A masterpiece of a game and game music composition.
It's not that is a surprise so much of all the possible popular RPGs, that was the one that was the most popular of the popular RPGs.
All right, I'll take that.
But Ys 4 was the heavy shocker just by virtue of the fact that I'd never hear anyone talk about Ys 4, and then out of nowhere, bam, bam, like multiple. So, hey, I'm not complaining though. I'm happy.
Yeah, all right.
Because I love both of those games.
Well, this is an odd number episode. We're starting with the odd numbered Purnell.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to start this off with one of the games that was not popular. In fact, I've only ever heard it really brought up one other time in this conversation. And then it comes up here, and this track slaps. So here we go. This came from listener and friend Cameron Werma. Ooh. This is Naskuot. I don't know how to pronounce it. Kuot from the game Paladin's Quest on the Super Nintendo. And I hope you all dig it. Welcome back. You're listening to Naskuot. Maybe. From the game Paladin's Quest on the Super Nintendo, composed by Rob
Kohei Tanaka. I was reading it as Naskuot.
Naskuot. We'll go with it. Submitted by the listener and friend Cameron Werba. I like when I actually have issues pronouncing a game, so I'm going to own it. I'm going to own it. No shame in my game. Guess what? Naskuot.
No shame, no shade.
Namcot. So, let's read this testimonial that we can get around to the prittle prattle. Cameron says, "Hey guys, so this is a game I purchased during my Enix Can Do No Wrong phase." Man, that was a real phase, by the way. In the mid-90s. I had recently become obsessed with Dragon Warrior and could not wait to explore more titles with that strangely appealing swooshing E logo. This is how I discovered Illusion of Gaia and Brainlord, both of which quickly became favorites of mine. I don't recall how I came to know of the existence of Paladin's Quest, but all I knew and needed to know was that it was an Enix RPG. Cha-ching, sold. I picked it up from Funko-Land as soon as they had a copy, and I had the scratch. Disappointed is the wrong term, but I wasn't particularly thrilled. Though seemingly a pretty standard JRPG on its face, it was a peculiar game with peculiar characters and peculiar battle mechanics. Take a drink when you hear peculiar, all of which I find more intriguing now than I did then, when I was just looking for another great game that was easy to get into. I traded it in not long after. Listening to the OST nowadays, though, I find myself getting nostalgic for that brief period of time I spent with the game. It's really got some great tunes, which I later found out were composed by Kohei Tanaka. Bam, he nailed it. The man responsible for the OST of one of my absolute favorite games. Oh, crap! Alundra!
Oh.
There we go. Alundra's got a great OST, by the way. I've come to think that the Paladin's Quest OST is probably one of the unsung great RPG soundtracks of the era. Well, after hearing that, I'm going to start looking into it more myself.
Yeah, no, this is really good. Like, this is stupid good. This is like, very good. Hitoshi Sakamoto, almost like that level of like sweeping violins and orchestration. This is amazing.
I got no shame in admitting that I listened to all the tracks that got submitted, and I was having a lot of difficulty choosing which tracks to choose for the episode because they're all good.
Yeah.
But this was not one of the ones that I had trouble going. This was like, gimme. This is done.
Had to go for it, right?
I'm taking it. I need this one on my roster. This is legit. And hearing that the same guy did Alundra,
that's amazing.
There it is. Because I loved Alundra so much that I played through it 3 times with a failed memory card, but never beat it. Ever.
So you played through it, the memory card failed.
Played through it again.
With the same memory card?
Yes, and it failed again. And the 3rd time I was like, well,
Okay, the definition of insanity, Pernell,
is playing a game multiple times on the memory card because you paid a stupid amount of money for it, so you were locked into it.
Is incredible. Oh my gosh.
Those mega memory cards were terrible, but I wanted to believe.
I used to have these memory cards for the Dreamcast. They used to sell these third-party ones that had like additional space to them. Mm-hmm. And I always thought those were going to like fail on them too.
But they didn't?
No, I mean, maybe I wasn't using them wrong enough.
I was like, yeah, unlike me, I'm that poor guy where the people are like, you'll go on the internet and so it's like, I don't know why you complain about Joy-Cons being so terrible. Maybe if you took care of your stuff. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here dusting and polishing my controllers after every use and they still break. Like, is it something with me? Is it something I did? I thought my Switch loved me, and
working in IT for the past 3 years, I've discovered that some people just touch electronics and they just stop working.
Though some people throw their electronics against the wall and tell you they fell.
That has happened before. At my last job, there was a guy, our mutual friend Henry. He was the IT person at that job. I was just in software, and he was leaving the company and brought his home laptop in to give to him, right? Mm-hmm. It was so sticky.
Jesus.
There was like jam and jelly like in the keyboard.
He practices PB&J ways on the laptop. Just spread it all on the keyboard.
I only know this because he told me, and I said, like, what happened? And he said, well, he told me that he left it on the ground, and his toddler like just walked all over it and like had like
his toddler.
I said, no way.
His toddler did
no
it. No
way. He this is my thinking, right? He was at a meeting. He was eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He put it down on the computer, and when the meeting was over, he closed the lid.
I'd almost rather hear he just like bit into it and just like gushed out the back or something. It's like shot out the back.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Too much jelly on it.
Too much jelly in it. I do that. I do that with peanut butter. Too much peanut butter. Mm-hmm. I have a peanut butter problem.
No one has a peanut butter problem. That sounds like a peanut butter, I don't know, passion.
Is that a book, the Peanut Butter Solution? Is that a book?
It should be.
I think it is. It's like a children's book.
Man, I'm having a lot of trouble on the dating circuit. You know what you need? Peanut butter.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter will fix it. I can't seem to get that promotion I've been longing for. Bring a damn peanut butter and jelly sandwich to the meeting. They can't say no to that. That's a power play. That is how you get in. Sir, what makes you think you're qualified for this job? There's Skippy on this sandwich.
Skippy.
Just saying, I mean, look at me.
Peanut butter is power. It's a power food.
Choosy moms choose Jif.
If you want,
this man pops Skippy.
If you want everyone at that meeting to know you're a real man, a real businessman,
a go-getter,
you make sure you got peanut butter on that sandwich.
Roasted honey nut.
You can do that.
Only way.
Crunchy for me.
Yeah, I can do crunchy. Shows that my teeth are powerful. Powerful, cheesy teeth. Give me the job.
Oh my God.
Just saying, I want the role.
You're just like, how strong my teeth are.
There's peanuts in this. They even ground them up all the way.
All right, we got a lot of music to get to. All right, we're gonna dial it back a little bit. Right, we're gonna shift gears.
Are we going more towards Marmalade now?
A little more somber. No, Marmalade is not somber. Marmalade is not. Marmalade is not sadness.
I don't know. Certain marmalades.
Marmalade is joy. No, we're going to a pick from a new Patreon, a new listener maybe, or a new listener who's written into us. Camille Mayleon have picked from the game Shin Megami Tensei for now.
Hey,
Yes.
I'm glad you picked it because that was one of those where it's like, it's on the nose for me, but I like this track.
I love the music of the Shin Megami Tensei SNES version. So we're listening to the track Dream for the Super Famicom, composed by Shoji Meguro. You're listening to the track Dream from the game Shin Megami Tensei for the Super Famicom, composed by Shoji Meguro. This was picked by listener Camille Melion, and they say, it's the screen where you name your characters while walking in a dark maze. I said walking, didn't I?
You totally did, Mr. Chocobo.
Walking in a dark maze in 3D. I was hypnotized by this theme for like 15 minutes. What a great way to start a game. You immediately understand its general ambiance. Unfortunately, I did not get where you were supposed to do in the game, and I gave up an hour later. However, I'm still listening to this amazing soundtrack. I'm with you.
Go back to the game, by the way, because this is the only game I could think of where the president of the United States is actually Thor, and he launches a nuclear missile from the U.S. Embassy into Tokyo. That's not really a spoiler. That's like the beginning of the game.
It's the most historically accurate video game of the 90s that we could think of.
It's very baffling thing. It's like, who sat down and said, it'd be great. Actually, thinking about it, that would make reasonable sense if the gods were real and they came down to cause mischief, and it's like, we're just going to do this thing where we're going to masquerade as world leaders and just cause them to fight. Because that's pretty much what sets off that game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said Thor masquerades as the president.
No, Shin Megami Tensei games are bizarre. So I am totally with you on that. I did try to play this game for a while. I don't know why I stopped. Maybe I was doing something else at the time, probably. But there's something really dreamlike about this game. This one in particular. It's almost,
track or the game as a whole?
The game as a whole, I think. It's because it's got that first person view.
Well, I would definitely give it a nightmare because this game, nothing good happens to the characters.
So
nothing.
So yeah, there's definitely a translation available out there in the emulation world. You gotta play it. It's so strange. It's so interesting, and it's the beginning, right, of the Shin Megami Tensei and Persona series, right?
Pretty much, because there was Megami Tensei in this anime that came out in the 80s, but I'm not versed enough to really be understanding of it, because there was actually an NES Megami Tensei game.
Oh.
Believe it or not. I'm just not, but there was basically Shin Megami was a spinoff of Megami Tensei.
Okay.
But then they just kind of stayed with that name.
I was going to say Shin Megami Tensei sounds like this is like the next.
New Goddess Reborn, I think it stands for.
But this music sounds like you're supposed to tell scary stories while it's playing.
And the dark.
Yeah, but it's when you put your name in. This is when you enter your name.
Your name and the law hero and the chaos hero. Like
right.
You're walking through a corridor and there's like a guy on a cross and he's like, so tell me who you are. But it's very weird.
But like according to this music, you also have to tell the game how you died.
You ate a bad pretzel.
Bad pretzel.
That'll do it. Actually, this is a good time also to mention, because I know that the last Rican is still in this blasted chat. Funny fact, your taunt was a 50-50 result, because on one hand, I have been playing the game, and I did get past where I left off, and I got to the final dungeon. What cut me off, however, is learning that there's a hidden dungeon on the world map where I can fight all the fiends, which resulted in me hitting the brakes on progress. But I need to tell myself, beat the game and then just come back and fight the fiends if I really feel like it that much. But I am officially in the final dungeon, which is Yahweh's realm. So now I have to go and literally punch God in one of his million faces. That's literally the final boss in this game.
I have to go and punch God again.
Well, it makes interesting sense. They say that the idea is that you have the final... They kind of shoehorned it in, I'll admit, but the idea is that you have to go and gain free will. Basically, by defeating God, you gain free will for humanity. Otherwise, if you don't, a new series of like demigods will come. And demigods and demons will come to fight for control of humans, just like they've always done, basically.
That's super fascinating.
It's an interesting game.
Yeah, that sounds cool. This is what's killing me about talking about all these RPGs. They sound so cool. I'm not going to play it.
All you need is 100 hours per.
It sounds so awesome, yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, my clock is 97 hours.
Someone novelized these games for me so I can just read them, in bed.
Hey, that's what wikis are for.
You can just read a wiki in bed.
Go to the Shin Megami Tensei wiki, you can get all the plots.
I can print them out and have like a little book. I'll be sitting there in bed.
Wow, what a twist! Yeah. So Mother Harlot did what now?
This part's getting hot. This is great. Okay, what's your next track, Bruno?
All right, so let's see. My next track as I go down the line is going to be from Off Person.
Oh.
This track comes from... I actually love both the track and his dialogue for this, so it was kind of a win-win. This is the theme from the last castle in the game Final Fantasy Mystic Quest for the Super Nintendo, composed by Ryuji Sasai and Yasuhiro Kawakami. Not to be confused with Dr. or Professor or Ms. Kawakami from Persona 5. Welcome back. You're listening to the Last Castle theme from the game Final Fantasy Mystic Quest on the Super Nintendo, composed by Ryuji Sasai and Yasuhiro Kawakami, submitted by listener Off Person. Final Fantasy, before even reading the testimonial, all I want to say is that Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was that game that I never got to play growing up. I only saw it talked about Nintendo Power. It looked really colorful. And I learned about the music from a fellow friend in the East Coast Pokemon League who raved about it, and then finally the battle theme, which also submitted, came up in a Theatrhythm Culture Curtain Call, which was the Final Fantasy music game that got released on 3DS.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that's why I first heard the battle theme, and I was in love with the OST ever since.
Really?
Oh yeah.
I'm surprised that's where you first heard it, but it's interesting that you first heard it in a future arrangement, probably arranged version of it.
Oh no, it was the original.
It was the original.
It was the original track. They just slapped it in the game.
Interesting.
And it was like, whoa! Of all things, they put a Mystic Quest track here, and my friend was like, "No, Mystic Quest has a great OST."
This is the one they called USA, right?
Yes. Yeah. So what did Ulf have to say about this game? Well, I love this one, so let's go to reading it. Final Fantasy Mystic Quest was actually the first ever RPG I ever played on the SNES. Many years ago, I started buying US imported Game Boy RPGs. For example, Final Fantasy Adventure and the Final Fantasy Legends series. Back in the day, RPGs were scarce over here, so if you wanted to play them, you had to import them from America. And the same was true for the SNES. I was actually trying to get my hands on Final Fantasy VI or Chrono Trigger, and was calling every source of US importers I knew, but I could not get a hold of them at the moment. One of the mail order importers I had on my Rolodex said, "We only got this Final Fantasy Mystic something." So I bought it just to have something to play while trying to get to the big league games later. I knew nothing about Mystic Quest, and man, did my jaw drop when I booted this bad boy up. Because, whoa, it sucked so hard.
Wow, that is an extreme response.
I gotta say also, not only did he cap it, but he has like a laughing Kirby emoji, which I think is amazing. He typed it in there with ASCII. Now I actually played through it thanks to the totally awesome music. And nowadays, out of nowhere, I sometimes get tunes stuck in my mind from this game. I gotta say, this is a description after my own heart because I have definitely played through games solely because the OST was rocking. And if that OST was not jamming, I would have not even have kept the game around my house.
I feel like this is like our podcast reaches out to people who are passionate about games and music. The people who are out there who listen to a soundtrack and say, this music is great, I will buy the game and play the game based on the music alone.
Also, have a good night last weekend.
Oh, thanks for hanging out with us when you can. Good seeing you. Thanks for beating up on my friend Pernell.
Hey, he didn't nag you. Take that back.
Well, you know what I mean, like verbal abuse.
No, I win. I'm going to beat that game.
But yeah, I remember when this game came out, and a friend of mine in elementary school was super into the Final Fantasy games, and then was super disappointed playing this one.
I don't think I've ever met a person who came away saying this game is fantastic. At most, they said pretty much with offset, which is that they like the music.
They like the music, yeah. And then I didn't know about the music because I didn't really pay attention to it because during this era of games, I didn't care about RPGs. Not even my thing. So it wasn't until later on when I started to explore video game music of this era, just outside of the context of the game itself, that I discovered the soundtrack. I love it.
I will say this about the
love
game,
it.
though.
What's up?
Because it's freaking good. But like, I've heard numerous people say that Final Fantasy Mystic Quest would make a good first JRPG. Now, I can't comment on that one way or the other because I've never played it. I only know that people have described it as being an easy game. But what I question is whether or not it truly makes sense to have something akin to a My First JRPG, or just pretty much just kind of throw people in and let them see if they swim. Like, I played Final Fantasy first.
I think it depends. Because I think some games really do expect you to know some of the concepts, before going into it. Like, leveling up and experience points, like, they expect you to understand what that means.
True, but that's the trick to it, though. Like, none of these games really go so well. Let me take that back, because in recent games they do like go hyper on the tutorials. But in the earlier games, particularly, I can't think of too many that outright said, including Mystic Quest, that said, "Hey, so by the way, when you kill a monster, you get experience points, and when you get enough, you level up." No, you just do it.
It just happens, especially during this era, for sure. Yeah,
and then you also have to figure that the systems will come into play and things will happen, but early game for the most part is typically fairly easy to get through with as long as you just try. So they give you enough to just kind of play with the systems, like you go into a battle, these things show up, enemies on the left, you're on the right, and there's this menu, like, what do? I can choose fight, I guess.
I feel like people who are into sports should have really gotten into RPGs because it was like football. It was American football. You're picking your plays, and they run the play. Mm-hmm. And they come back, and you pick your plays again, and they run the play again. And it's very similar to that. I was going to say, like, for people who don't know much about the systems and about how these games work, they would go to a shop, and they would buy the armor, and they would walk away and say, perfect, I have new armor, but they would never equip it. I did that all the time.
So you're the reason games keep telling me, don't forget to equip your armor because it doesn't work if you don't wear it.
Yes. Yes.
Literally tell you that now.
Because if you buy something, why wouldn't you wear it? Why wouldn't you wear it for now?
Hey. Oh, crap.
If you buy a game, why wouldn't you play it? No,
For those who don't know, I have like 8 pairs of pants I have not worn in my closet right now. I have not equipped my pants.
let me wear them. Let me wear them. Pernell.
No, they're my stats.
Let me walk a mile in your pants, Pernell.
I can sell them back in chapter 12. You'll see. I'll get a big profit boost.
Oh, chapter 12 of Pernell's RPG life. All right, moving on to our next track. We're flying all the way over to Michael Bridgewater, Mibri, of the Forever Sound Version podcast.
Going to the future.
He went off in a completely different direction to a completely new computer system. This is the game called Continental for the Sharp X68000. The track is called FRPG 15. I don't know if that's the name of the track or if that's just... Well, you threw your scarf around your neck there like that.
And now I'm owning it.
Yeah. Or maybe that's just the name, the number of the track. I'm not sure, but we'll get into that. The composers are Kiyotaka Sato, Ryu Takami, Megumi Matsuura, and BAKI, B-A-K-I. This is Continental for the Sharp X68000. Listening to FRPG 15 from the game Continental for the Sharp X68000, composed by Kiyotaka Sato, Ryu Takami, Megumi Matsuura, and the pseudonym BAKI, B-A-K-I. This is so smooth, Pernell. I am feeling this.
Oh, this was definitely... Sometimes, I will say, when I'm going through the list of tracks, and I'm like, I gotta pick a track, I gotta narrow my selections down. There are definitely times where I'll come across a track and go, I really want to pick that, but I'm not sure I want to pick over something else. And I go, I'm pretty sure Rob will pick it.
Oh,
if
yeah.
I don't.
Oh, yeah.
So I can let it go confidently knowing that Rob's going to pick it. And this was one of those.
This is definitely one of those. I'll read the testimonial now. Michael says, this tune from the 1992 Japan-only RPG, Continental, is the 16-bit oral equivalent of wearing linen trousers on a beautiful, clear evening with a gentle breeze while watching a sunset and sipping a daiquiri. Ooh.
Aqua City would be pleased.
Yeah. Details about Continental are scarce, but by the looks of things, it's one of those adult-ish RPGs. Needless to say, I haven't played this one myself. While the game was also released on the PC-98, not surprised, and the MSX home computer systems, I have selected the Sharp 68000 version because it sounds so sweet. If the remainder of our summer to 16-bit starts to get a little too hot, then this sublime slice of balladry will surely help to cool things down. And then later on in the chat, Michael comments, I was hoping to get Hammock's attention with this one. Hammock, the...
Do you hear him, Hammock?
The resident of Aqua City and the producer of KVGM, The Last Wave.
Do you hear what Meebree's putting down?
Can you feel it? Can you feel the breeze?
And the funny thing about that, too, that he mentioned, like, it's one of those adult games. I didn't learn until we started doing the podcasting just how great these OSTs can be, because it was the one that Chris Murray submitted that one episode about the Monster Girl battling game. And then there was Yuno, which originally came across because of Ed Wilson. And then I ended up reviewing Yuno for the Switch.
Amazing stuff.
And the OST for Yuno is amazing.
You were going to say lit, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
Don't you say epic?
It was poppin', Rob. It was poppin', Rob.
I'm loving this song, man. This is really true. It's got that sunset, sipping a sweet beverage with fruit in it. It's beautiful. This is beautiful. I would have never heard of this game either. Again, being on mainly or primarily Japanese computer systems. So even emulation, I would probably get just a language I wouldn't understand. But
have a good night, Ulf.
Oh, yes. Good night. Thank you for joining us. Or good day. I'm not sure what time you're in.
That's what makes it. That's amazing to me. I love that. I love the time zone jumps that we get.
Well, I mean, beautiful music knows no time zone, Pernell.
You better
international waters, Pernell.
And there's something to be said about that, too. I've come to feel like VGM, video games in general, are one of those mediums that just transcends, like locale. In a sense, there's like, hey, what are you playing over there? Well, like Ulf said, I imported X game from America. I might be like, oh, I imported X game from Asia. We could technically be playing the same game, imported across the way or whatever. Or just talking about games and saying, hey, I love this game, you should try it. Oh, it doesn't exist in my region. Well, check out this site where you can buy it and have it imported to you. And you speak English so you can read it. It's good. Or I only speak Japanese. Well, there's a site that has a nice translation set up for it. You can play through it that way. Because I can tell you right now, I've played quite a few RPGs in my day using a translation document.
Oh, yeah. You've gone through the process of like having the translation on one side and the game on the other side?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Does that spoil anything for you?
It's not as good as the understanding
good
of it,
about what you did?
Oh, I feel great. I feel friggin' great. Excellent.
All right, what's your third track for now?
Let me see.
We're going with.
That's why I like this episode. I have multiple pages, and I have to actually swish to the page
And I hope
the next track exists.
I don't know if it's getting picked up by the microphone, but it is like you're reading a deposition over here.
Let's see. I like to call Bedroth to the stand. Bedroth, what is the pick that you have selected for this episode of Rhythm and Pixels?
Oh.
What is that? What? Ease 4.
Oh.
Which Ease 4?
Do you want to give a little context to this one?
Oh, we'll get to the context.
All right.
Because he's telling us right now that he chose tracks from multiple Ease 4 games. Yeah, that's going to get weird, but we'll talk about that later. In the meantime, just know you are listening to Syobainin from the game Ease 4, Mask of the Sun, and Ease 4, Dawn of Ease. All composed by the Falcom sound team, but the Dawn of Ease version is remixed / arranged rather by Ryo Yonimitsu. welcome back. You're listening to Syobainin. That's a weird name. From the game Ys 4 Mask of the Sun for the Super Famicom and Ys 4 Dawn of Ys for the PC Engine. Both composed by the Falcom sound team, except the PC Engine version was arranged by Ryo Yonimitsu. So, I'll talk about the little bit I know after, but for now, let's read what Bedroth had to say. Man, what a broad topic. I went digging through several soundtracks before it dawned on me that I might have the perfect submission for this month.
Dawn on you?
Oh, dear God, Robert.
Yeah. All right.
See, earlier this year, I guested on the BG Mania podcast and talked with the host Brian about the crazy development story of the 4 different versions of Ys 4. That whole story would take way too long to type out, but if anyone wants to go check it out, they can shoot me a message and I'll send them a link to the episode. Now that I'm done plugging other people's shows, my submission this month is a 2-version mashup I made of the Syobainin, a song from Ys 4. I don't know anything about this game, so someone with more experience may have to give us some context for the song's significance. The first version you hear is from the SNES game Ys 4 Mask of the Sun, developed by Tonkin House and released in 1993 for the Super Famicom. I believe that this was the first version of the game developed, and the composers for this game, Falcom Sound Team, included Yoshiaki, Kubotera, Masanori, Hikichi, Miyoko, Takaoka, Naoki, Ito, Tomohiro Endo, and Hiro Tengenji. The second version is from the PC Engine game Ys 4 Dawn of Ys. This version was developed by Hudson Soft, and the original Super Famicom compositions were arranged by Ryo Yonimitsu. There is seriously a lot that we can unpack here. It's a fun rabbit hole to explore for anyone who is of a sound mind to do so. There are also a lot of other tracks you can look up and compare across all 4 versions. It's Falcom, so you know it's good stuff. I hope you enjoy it. And if you know me, Bedroth, you would know, that I was all about this rabbit hole myself. Though I am curious about what the 4th game is, because I'm not remembering it off the exact top of my head, but I know of Dawn, Memories of Celceta, and of course, Mask of the Sun. All the games have the same general narrative, but they're told in different ways, depending on who wrote it. For example, Dawn of Ys, which is the one I played most, I beat Memories of Celceta, and I played a good chunk of Dawn. Dawn of the group is the only one where you go back to the original area from Ys 1, but the beginning of the game, and then later on you also have to go back to Darm Tower, which was also a Ys 1 location. But aside from that, they do still have the Mask of the Sun and all that good stuff. And they all play differently too, for the most part. It's crazy.
Well, some of them some of them have the bumping mechanics where you kind of bump into the thing to fight.
Yeah, 2 of them that I know of had the bump, and Memories of Celceta went with the action style that was brought about originally by way of Ys 7 with the action plus party member swap. They remixed music across all the games. Some tracks got stuck in one game versus the others. Other ones, they brought the tracks over, but they used them in different locations. For example, Ys 4 Dawn of Ys uses the El Deal theme, or the Lava Zone theme, for the actual lava cave that you have to go through. Whereas in Memories of Celceta, there's a remixed version of it that is played in the Tower of Providence, which is an awesome dungeon because you get the dash because you run up walls. Oh my god, I love those games. Anyway, the last thing I'll say so I can stop gushing about this crap is Ys 4 Dawn of Ys was probably the first time I hardcore attempted to try to import a game, but I couldn't afford it back then. I was getting Turbo Zone Directs, the Turbo Duo was on its way out the door, and this out of nowhere Ys game just got announced, and I was an Ys addict at this point. But the game also cost a stupid amount because it was an import. And I didn't get a chance to play it officially for the very first time, despite the existence of emulation, until 2016 when I got my Turbo Duo repaired after it being broken by, friends and family and stuff. And then I didn't really stick with the game until I did play it on an emulator anyway. So I had the physical game.
Well, it helps to have that.
On a disc, on a Turbo Duo.
Yeah, and I played that flexibility of when and where you can play it, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But any version of this game that you can get around to play is 100% worth your time. I love the bump and grind system. I love the action combat system. They're all fun. And the music, as Bedroth says, is a banger across all versions. You can't go wrong.
Well, I'll tell you what. How about a little bit more ease in your life, Pernell?
Can't go wrong with more E's.
All right, we're going for some more music here. This is from the game Ys 4 Mask of the Sun for the Super Famicom, again composed by the Falcom sound team, but arranged by Cube, which is Yoshiaki, Kubotera, Masanori, Hikichi, Miyoko, Kobayashi, Naoko, Ito, Tomohiro Endo, and or Hiru Tengenji. So there's a lot of people in the sound team. They're all wonderfully talented. This is the theme of Adol. This is picked by our listener, Chris Murray. Chris Murray! Thank you very much. This is the theme of Adol from Ys 4 Mask of the Sun for the Super Famicom, composed by the Falcom sound team JDK. This is picked by our listener and friend Chris Murray.
I love that Frankly Zappa says, I did not know how to pronounce E's correctly until listening to your show. Don't feel bad.
Me too.
A lot of other people are in the same boat. Many still can't pronounce it properly. And like one of my favorite image grabs was someone that found an Arby's where the sign was busted and all it had was the Y apostrophe S lit up. It's like, come grab a roast beef from E's or from Y's.
I mean, really, like my first Ys game was Ys 3 on the Sega Genesis. And I was like, ooh, I just rented Y's from Blockbuster.
Who wants to play some Y's?
So Chris Murray says, I wanted to pick something a bit different but still true to form for my tastes. So I picked a track from a 16-bit Ys game, having just completed Ys 9, Monstrum Nox, which sounds like a monster beverage, which is yet another excellent entry in the series. This track is pretty classic Falcom and pretty different from other SNES RPGs from Square and others, so I hope you enjoy.
Oh my god. See, hearing him say it, like, if we did an Ys episode like Chris suggested, as a go back to, friggin' Monstrum Nox is going to find some places on there, because despite the fact that the OST in that game is very different from traditional Falcom's sound team tunes, and it was very highly contested as far as the fan base is concerned. I personally love quite a few tracks in that game. I think I've played like 2 on the show already, despite the game coming out this year.
The name does sound familiar to me, so that kind of makes sense to me.
And Cloaca Maxima, the one where everyone's like, do you know what that means? Like, yes, I know what that means. It's still a good track.
This is good. This is much more on the, not much more, because the other one was kind of surf rocky. This one's got that more of that RPG fantasy, excitement battle feel.
It's magic.
The theme of Adol, does it play during battle, or is it just like, does it play when Adol's talking?
Honestly, I don't know. It's one of those things where like the tracks that generally resonate with me the most are the ones that play during action environments, like dungeons or the like. And I feel like this most likely plays during like the intro where he's like on a boat traveling to the country. Or, I see he's never... I don't think I've ever seen him riding a horse. I don't think he's ever ridden a horse in a game.
This sounds like horse riding music to me, right? This is very horsing it up.
Is this the first Ys where he rides a horse?
It could be.
Find out by playing it.
Hammock says he pronounced it yes when he was a kid.
Yes.
I like that. All right, so I'm going to turn this track down, this beautiful track down, and we're going to get into the part of the show. If you've listened to us, you know what we're talking about. This is the bonus round.
Bonus round. I'm gonna ride my horse to
Everybody party tonight.
Yeah.
All right, so the bonus round is where we play covers and remixes and arrangements on our theme, and our theme is listener-suggested 16-bit RPGs. Pernell, what did you pick from the many amazing tracks that came in through our email?
And for the record, I do want to say that this trend of picking a track in a bonus round track, everyone who's doing that, keep doing it, because that is friggin' awesome, and I loved having that choice.
I love it too.
So my first pick is going to come from Stephen Miller. And for the record, I am going to say that I came close to picking your original submission, which was Prophet from Breath of Fire.
Oh.
But I didn't want to double down on one person. And the bonus round submission you gave was straight fire.
Oh.
So there it is.
I don't think I got this one. So what is it?
This is the Kefka Intense Symphonic Metal cover from Final Fantasy VI, composed by Falcom, spelled Falkone. Welcome back. You are listening to the Kefka Intense Symphonic Metal cover from the game Final Fantasy VI, composed by Falcom, submitted by listener Stephen Miller. And I will say that, well, one, the track is a freaking banger, and two, I was drawn to it because I'm that guy who genuinely feels like Kefka is probably the best villain they've had in that series. He doesn't get enough. I mean, I will say there's room for contesting, and if people want to, because of course there's reasons for that, but I feel like he doesn't get nearly enough due for how awesome of a villain he was. But I'll stop rambling because this is not my pick. This was Stephen Miller's pick, and he has something to say. Though, let's see. For my bonus round submission, had to go with arguably the best villain theme out of the Final Fantasy series, and arguably the best villain theme, period. Falcom really gives this song the grandeur it deserves. And I have to say, I agree with him on that. This is woof. Woof.
Yeah, that wasn't, I was intense. It was as intense as the song should be.
It had that driving drum.
Yeah, yeah.
Where did that come from?
I love that when that double bass kick kicked in. I think everybody in the chat was like, yes, this rocks.
And I like the fact about Kefka, about how he functioned, just the general fact that his purpose was of no purpose. He was just mental.
Yeah.
And he was bored. So he did things to do them. Like generally with an RPG, they'll give these villains where it's like it's either one of two things. Either a sympathetic villain where it's like, I kind of want him to win, but being that I'm controlling the heroes, he's got to go down. Yeah. Or the alternative where it's just like, okay, this guy just has delusions of grandeur. He just wants to rule the world. I can see why he has this power trip thing going on, whatever. Kefka's like, I want to poison people, so I'm going to do it.
He's just going to do it.
I'm going to do it. And then he succeeds at all of his goals by being a complete jerk. And he's like, this was boring. I have nothing else to do now. I can't accomplish anything else, so... yeah, whatever. This is weird. It's great, though. It's the only one where it's like, what happens when that villain that wanted ultimate power actually gets it? The answer is he becomes bored.
He becomes bored, and it gets worse for everybody. All right, so my bonus round pick, we are going, I'm going to go with listener Jessica. Jess sends us City of Magic from the game Lunar, the Silver Star Story. I am tongue-tied tonight. This is arranged by Stephen Morris. You ready for this one? the Silver Star Story. That was arranged and performed by Stephen Morris.
Say that 5 times fast.
I'm having a hard time saying it slowly. And that was picked by our listener, Jess. She says, sorry for being so late to the game again, but life has been crazy these past few weeks. I'm in the same place as Rob was a few weeks back, remodeling going on in the basement and a cat box 6 feet away from my computer. It's a problem, among other things. I am totally calling this suggestion in with with only 5 minutes, being generous, spent looking for a track. I'm not much of an RPG gal. I've enjoyed a handful, but I always get bored, usually 85% through when the map opens up, where you really have to start grinding, and moved on to other games. I've tried Final Fantasy VII and Rob's beloved Final Fantasy X, a Star Ocean game, and a handful of others, but the only RPG I've ever completed was Lunar the Silver Star as the Sega CD. My brother and I got a used Sega CD for Christmas one year and a small handful of used games for it, and pretty much lost our marbles way better than getting a new one with one game. We loved it and played all the games we got it to death, even Cliffhanger. And to this day, I'm still a sucker for FMV games, to the point that a friend and I recently completed a working proof of concept for our own FMV game. Oh, that sounds cool. Included in the batch of games was Lunar the Silver Star. When I first played Final Fantasy VII on the PS1, I remember thinking, this is like a ripoff of Lunar, only way cooler, until I got stuck or lost near the end and quit. I honestly don't remember much about the music from the game, but it sounds a bit familiar. But as someone who plays 0 instruments, I always appreciate it when one guy can do all of the instruments, including recording the audio and video on YouTube. So yeah, this one's really cool. We'll have links to the video on our website because it's really neat watching him perform on all of the instruments. Not all at one time, but with the different videos, you know.
I can definitely say this about Jessica's entry here. First thing, if you are a fan of FMVs, you might want to consider joining me on my journey to purchase a game that likely will be happening this weekend called Death Come True. It's on the Switch. It's done by the guy who did Danganronpa, and it is essentially an FMV game, but it's acted out by actual actors. And the goal and the narrative is very weird. Guy wakes up in bathtub with person tied up in living room, and news articles saying he just killed somebody. He doesn't know why he's there or what. And also he dies a lot and comes back. Apparently it's a really good narrative, and it's equivalent of a 2-hour movie that you're playing through with a lot of bad endings.
Oh, wow.
But it sounds cool, and I'm considering that. The second thing I wanted to say is earlier in the episode, we were all talking about starter RPGs pretty much. I think it's funny that she said that one of the only RPGs she played through is Lunar the Silver Star on Sega CD, because I have 3 people in my life who can say the exact same thing.
Really?
Like they couldn't get into any other RPGs, well, except for one. He played through Final Fantasy VII because, of course.
Right, your brother played Lunar, right?
Darnell, Clarence, and my uncle all played Lunar the Silver Star to completion.
Whoa, this is a legacy. This is
something about Lunar the Silver Star that clicked for a lot of people.
Wow.
I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe it was like the game's story was classic in its own right. It's essentially a kid with dreams. Now, of course, other games have done that since then in their own way, but something about the way Lunar does it, He lives on a small island, podunk town. He wants to become better. He wants to be like his idol, become an adventurer, and he finds a dragon diamond, which is actually a diamond cracked dragon poop, but that's another story. And he travels, and it's like just him exploring the world with his friend who stops to open a shop, and he's on his own. And it's a great story. It is also one of the first games to have decent, full voiced audio sequences.
That's right, yeah.
And nice musical numbers, though some hate on the work and designs element. Personally, in this case, I was fine with it. But it was lightning in a bottle, I would say. And even when they did the later version, Silver Star Story Complete, and they expanded the story and added Zenovia's sisters and all that, there's something to me about the very first Sega CD game that, despite Complete being a larger, more robust package, it didn't trump that original game. It's weird to me. I don't know how to explain it, but there is something to say about people saying Lunar the Silver Star was like the one game they were able to complete in the genre.
Only thing I know about this game is that we sold it at Electronics Boutique when I worked there, and it had like a little puppet that would punch.
Oh, Silver Star Complete, yeah, get the Galleon puppet.
Yeah, I had a little puppet.
I still have it.
And we would sell the puppet with it. I remember looking at the thing being like, that means something to somebody.
Fun fact.
And then that's when I met you.
That puppet's worth money. Yeah, that's how it is. Purnell has that puppet. Let's be friends. That puppet's worth money now. And if you were at E3 that year, the Alex matching puppet is worth a lot more.
I'm sure that is super, super rare now. But guess what? We're going
bonus round.
Double.
Yeah.
We're going double. We're going double up bonus round. This is bonus round, new game plus. Purnell, what have you got?
Let's see here. And it is true. We did give away a Galleon puppet at a Turn-Based Critics panel. We had some great prizes for that thing. God, that was a great group.
Purnell, that was your puppet.
It was not my puppet. My puppet's upstairs. That was Rich's puppet, and that was his loss. I wasn't giving my puppet up for nobody. My bonus rails EX track comes from Hammer. This is the Brink of Time, covered and arranged rather. Originally composed by Yasunori Mitsuda, but arranged by Guido, a.k.a. Hiroshi Hata, and Kalta Otsuki. When you hear this, you're going to know. Yeah, Purnell wanted. Welcome back. You're listening to The Brink of Time, composed originally by Yasunori Mitsuda, but arranged in this case by Guido, a.k.a. Hiroshi Hata, and Kalta Otsuki. Originally from the game Chrono Trigger and submitted by listener
Hammock. Ooh, bring the fire.
all the time, and you know it. So what did Hammock have to say about this track? Well, Chrono Trigger was and still is one of my all-time favorite, if not my favorite, though it depends on the season, JRPGs. When I was a kid, we had a local Japanese anime/import store called Planet Anime. Rest in peace, moment of silence. And I saved up to buy the Chrono Trigger soundtrack on CD. Remember those? Of course, you don't need to tell me, you don't need me to tell you, rather, how good that OST is. But when I went back into that store, I saw the Chrono Trigger arranged version, The Brink of Time. I said to the clerk, "Hey, what's The Brink of Time CD all about?" And the clerk said, "No clue." And I said, "Okay, I'll take it." And I bought it and played it in my mom's car. And when I got to Secret of Force, I told my Mom, this is 100% a jam. And she agreed and then took me to Dairy Queen. I just love that ending so much. Then she took me to Dairy Queen.
We went to DQ.
Happily ever after.
Yeah, happily ever after. Oh, man.
Catch you later, Mike.
Yeah, good night, Mike. This was an incredible track. Way, just too perfect. Too perfect. Of course, Hammock bring in the Hammock jams.
Too fast, too perfect.
Too good, too good. All right, our last bonus. Excuse me.
Also, before you say it, I do feel like I don't know how we're going to do it, but now I feel like we need to have a topic somewhere in the future that says onward to Dairy Queen.
Onward to Dairy Queen.
I don't know what the tracks will be, but I want an episode related to Dairy Queen now.
Our last bonus round track comes from Chris Weisner, a.k.a. Musashi219.
The Wise Guy.
The Wise Guy. This is Cyan's theme from Final Fantasy VII. This is performed and arranged by TPR. That was Cyan's theme from Final Fantasy VI, composed by Nobuo Uematsu and arranged and performed by TPR. That was picked by
Toilet Paper Revolution.
Toilet Paper Revolution.
But no, seriously, though, this is really good.
TPR. This was picked by our listener, Chris Weisner. And Chris Weisner says, being that there was so much talk about the turn-based critics, it got me feeling very nostalgic. While it's true, our panels focused on non-Final Fantasy RPGs, all of us are admittedly fans of the franchise. One point of debate / discussion that came up was favorite characters in Final Fantasy 6 or 3, and as I was often in the minority when I brought up my love of Cyan Gargamande. I haven't played this game.
Mercy.
Cyan's story is one of the most tragic in the game, let alone the franchise, seeing as, spoiler alert, you can skip ahead a few seconds here. His family and the entire kingdom which he serves is murdered via poison. Cyan spends the vast majority of the game coping with elements of survivor's guilt, self-doubt, and depression, but he can process and overcome them when revisiting Doma Castle in the world of ruin. While these mental health issues may not seem readily identifiable or relatable to a kid playing Final Fantasy VI at the time of the release, there is much more awareness when revisiting it as an adult who has had their own share of mental health struggles. I picked TPR's cover of Cyan's theme because it provides a beautiful reinterpretation that seems far more fitting than Doma's demise. Whereas the original Super Nintendo theme is majestic with its booming drums and catchy flute melodies, TPR instead utilizes a somber piano and a quietly stirring string arrangement that reminds us even those most broken can still be made whole again. Wow.
He nailed that testimony.
That's fantastic.
I gotta say, though, just to cover my butt, you're, well, maybe in the minority, but in my case, Cyan, the character, is fantastic. My beef with Cyan is that his unique skill is probably the roughest due to how it works in the game. For those who aren't familiar with it, the way his every character in Final Fantasy VI has a unique special trait or ability. Mm. The way they did Cyan was he gets 8 different attacks that he can learn and use, but it's on a time meter. In an active time battle system, he has to wait. He has to wait a time bar as it goes across each one at a time. 1, 2, 3, 4, until eventually 8. All this time, other characters could be doing stuff, but you're stuck waiting. I feel like
is he the wind-up man of Final Fantasy VI?
He's the wind-up man of Final Fantasy VI. Yes. For those who are like, what the heck are you talking about? That's Res Arcana, the board game. But I feel like if they did a remake of Final Fantasy VI, that would be a thing I would totally request, is like do something to fix his special ability, because if they did that, I bet he would get a lot more use by players.
Interesting. I didn't know that about him. I do remember that arc of his story. I did play Final Fantasy VI enough to get to that point. It's pretty amazing.
Final Fantasy VI is fantastic. And the narrative of that entire game, like every character, heck, even Go-Go, and he's a bonus character. Every character's narrative in that game is fantastic. If I had to name one where I'm like, I could do without, maybe, it'd be tossed between either Mog or Gao, I guess. But overall, I like the narrative for every character in that game. It deserves so much more credit than it gets. And I feel like for having such a large ensemble cast, they all have a decent narrative to tell. It's just so good. So good. Also...
Also what?
I had to cough.
Oh, you just had to cough. For more information on our bonus round, go to rhythmandpixels.com. We'll have links to the SoundClouds, Bandcamps, everywhere where you can download the music, stream the music, and support these incredible artists. Oh yeah, Pernell's getting down. Thanks for joining us on episode 29-5 of Rhythm and Pixels. This is our 16-bit RPG episode for our Patreon listeners. Thank you very much for all of your track suggestions.
I love the fact that Bedros... How was that?
I said they're all amazing. What's up?
They are fantastic. Though I do have to say I 100% agree with what Bedroth said, which is, I'm surprised. No Earthbound, no Lufia, no Phantasy Star, no Saga, no Tales of Fantasia, but everything was so good. And I can say there was a Phantasy Star track that got submitted. However, it got retracted. You want to know why? Because I'm good. I'm good. Chris was going to submit Rune for Phantasy Star 4.
Right.
But I totally nailed that he would have picked that track on the last episode. So when he listened to the episode, he switched tracks. Because I was like, bam, Purnell was right.
You knew it. You knew what he was going to like.
I know my friends.
This last track we're listening to is the track Prophet from Breath of Fire for the Super Nintendo, composed by Yasuhiro Fujita. This was picked by Stephen Miller, who says, I recently finished Breath of Fire, and while the soundtrack is missing that Capcom flair, it has some really decent tracks. I'm saying I had really decent tracks. This has got a good soundtrack.
Oh my God.
My standout is the shop theme called Prophet. Something about that bass and weird time signatures sounds very out of place on the Super Nintendo. I think it does. It's jaunty in a way that other tracks can never be.
Breath of Fire was I do want to ask, though, since he said he just beat it for the first time, and if he's still in the chat, he can answer directly, but did you get Agni and get the true ending of the game? Because if you did not, you should go back and do that.
He's not a real gamer.
No, you shut up. I didn't say that.
Oh, man, I cannot believe you would imply that.
All I'm saying is
horrible,
that it's not, it doesn't add a lot of time to do as long as you have a save file that's outside of the final dungeon, because otherwise you have to walk out of the final dungeon.
Right.
But otherwise, it's not time consuming to pull off, and it's actually kind of cool. Because it changes the final battle and everything. So it's worth doing.
So it is actually worth, not just like as a completionist, but it actually just gives you...
It gives you more.
More to it.
It gives you more. And it's cool. And I didn't learn about it personally for a good, I'm talking years after I originally beat the game. I learned about it elsewhere. I was like, oh crap, I gotta go back. So I re-rented it and did it just to see it. But yeah, worth it. Worth it. I gotta say though, I want to say it because Chris is solid on this point. And it's not just for the game he references, but I think it goes across other games too. He says, Chris Wilder says, the key to a good RPG is a cast of characters who are all invested in the end game of the product. Not random throwaway characters to help and then fall to the sidelines. Hence, one of the reasons why Final Fantasy VI is top tier.
Yeah.
100% agree with that statement. 100% agree with that.
Yeah, Stephen Miller says he's played this game on Switch using save states.
Oh, no.
Good on him.
You stopped out.
Yes.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not talking about the save states being like the save time. He's saying sadness because he doesn't have a save file that lets him go back.
Oh, I see. I was like, yeah, using save state's good. Yeah, this is how we should be playing games.
I have no qualms with people saving time on their plays.
Yeah.
I
can't believe you would imply that, Purnell. Let people play games how they want.
Oh, I'm so evil. I'm a horrible man. Horrible.
No, that is sad. Yeah. Well, anyway, if you want to get in contact with me and Purnell, if you want to say hello, if you have a track suggestion or even a topic suggestion, we would love to hear about it. And you can send us an email.
rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com.
And for a full track listing of this episode and all of our episodes and access to every episode that we have, you can go to our website.
rhythmandpixels.com.
Check us out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. It is Rhythm and Pixels, all one word. You can find us all over the place there. Check us out on YouTube, youtube.com/rhythmandpixels. All of our episodes are posted there with chapter selection, which is really nice. If you want to skip ahead to a song that you want to hear or something that we talked about, you can jump to it. And we also have a radio station there playing nothing but 8-bit and 16-bit classics and deep cut, all there at youtube.com/rhythmandpixels. And we have a Discord if you want to come in there and hang out and chat about games, chat about life, chat about music. It's the Discord is at our website, rhythmandpixels.com, at the top of the page. And if you'd like to support the show, we have some cool shirts we're selling on the site, rhythmandpixels.com/merch. You can get a Run VGM t-shirt. You can get a t-shirt with one of your favorite sound teams on it. We have SNK. We have Falcom. We've got a cool Mega Drive shirt. Very cool designs, very classic designs that I am going to keep selling until they ask me to cease and desist.
Don't spur them.
So go check that out. You can also support us by going to Patreon, patreon.com/rhythmandpixels. There you get access to a weekly prequel episode of me and Pernell hanging out, chatting about the week, kind of decompressing before starting the show. You also get access to a monthly live streamed episode where we record this episode like we're doing today, this one specifically, in front of a live Patreon audience. And that is available for all Patreons at all levels of patronage. Patronage. And we, at the highest levels of our Patreon, we like to thank you. Thank you at the end of every episode. We like to thank Frankly Zappa, Mike Myers, Andreas Mielberg, Brian Pitt, Cameron Werma, Camille Mayleon, Carlos Kung Fu Carlito of the Heroes 3 podcast, Chris Weisner, a.k.a. Musashi219, a.k.a. Wise Guy.
Speaking of which, by the way, Chris, I am finally going to play Shining Force 1.
Ooh.
It's going to happen.
It will happen.
I stopped.
I know. I don't believe you. Chris,
Come on.
Oh, that cracked you up. Christopher Sedstrom, Davy Cakes, David Taylor, Harold Howard, Wicked Sephiroth, Justin Schneider from XVGM Radio, Michael Bridgewater from the Forever Sound version, VGM podcast, and Meebree64 on Twitch, twitch.com/Meebree64. Kicking out the Commodore 64 demo scene tunes. Reinhard Zelkova, Sleepy S'more, Steve Miller, Taco, The Autistic Gamer 89, Ed Wilson from the VG Embassy, and Ulf Person. All of you, thank you so much for your support of our show. Ed Wilson from the VG Embassy, his most recent episode has Dan Loughton on it.
We got to get Dan Loughton on this show.
I know, he's a great guest on this show. They're talking about hack and slash games.
I think it's funny too because you were joking earlier about Pernell. How do you imply such things? But I feel like Dan Loughton and I always have these scenarios where like I'll make a comment about a game and he'll say something like, "I just don't like that game very much," and I'm always like, "What?" And he always has this like really interesting and cool way to describe the dislike he has. And I'm like, I can get behind why you hate this game I like so much. It's really cool. Like, I like those discussions with him. Like, he's really good at articulating why he feels ways about stuff.
So, we should have him on the show. What topic do you want to do with him?
Speed running.
That's
what he does.
Speed running. Yeah, he is a Mega Man guy.
He makes me want to try to do it, but I also know that if I'd get pissed off if I get to like Dr. Wily 1 and make like one bad jump ruining the speed run. I couldn't do it.
Gotta start over. No, you just keep going. I mean, that's part of the run. It's just not a perfect run. But I bet you the joy is chasing that perfect wave. Run. Which makes sense. My problem is I'm chasing like 500 games, so that's a problem. Hey, we've all got what we're doing. I enjoyed having a double hit of the bonus round.
I like when it happens, but I like the way we do it though, because if you do it too much, it'll be like, well, now it's expected.
Yeah, right. Every time. Now we're gonna have to make our own music just to fit it in there.
I got a remix for you.
Yes. We did sing a lot during this episode. I don't think I recorded much of it. So, members of our Patreon viewing this, maybe viewing this on the replay, get to enjoy Robin Purnell freestyle time. But that's all I've got today. And next week, I don't think we have a topic selected yet, but we have plenty to choose from.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If anything, we could wrap up the entire summer of 16-bit with tracks suggestions submitted by Curly Kevin. So, which we might just do.
So we might have maybe 1 or 2 more weeks left of the summer, and then we might start to wind it down.
September 22nd. That's the end of this. The last day of summer.
Is it?
The last day of summer, September 22nd.
It's coming up. So thank you, everybody, for listening. My name is Rob Nichols.
And I'm Purnell.
We'll see you next week.
And remember, I didn't have one of these at one point, but then Rob spurred me on, so here you go.
What?
Games. Everybody and their mom has a way in which they want to play their games.
Yeah.
Which is the way it is. Games are meant to be fun. We also have a way of liking to share and express our feelings on how people should play their games, or the best optimal way to play their games. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, people will express their feelings. That's what we do as humans. We like to share our thoughts and impressions because we care about each other and we want to share what makes us happy with others. With that said, there is no wrong way to have fun with video games, as long as you're not eating Switch cartridges or something crazy like that. Play your game.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. But as far as how you play your games, it's however you want. I mean, save states, do it. Easy mode, do it.
Yeah.
While eating grapes out of a cannon, do that too. If you got the Rube Goldberg machine feeding them to you, that's fantastic. And please share the video of that. That'd be awesome. But most important and the thing worth expressing is there's no wrong way to have fun playing a video game. Just do what makes you happy. It's your free time. You should be enjoying it.